Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to this special episode of Lazio Lounge. It's summer transfer market. So it's time to talk about all the rumors. And Alistair, we have plenty of rumors to talk about related to Lazio. Players leaving, players coming, players we don't know what they're going to do. But we are here just 7th of June. The official transfer market window opens the 1st of July, just to remind everybody about that. But we have to remember, Alistair, that this year the season will start earlier. I don't know why, because who cares about the World Cup? But 12th of August, first game of the season, it's going to be really hot. 12th of July, I think Lazio is going to Oronzo. So Sarri would love to have all the players available for that date. So Lazio have to catch up a little bit, because I don't know if you remember the last podcast, we mentioned that Lazio is going to replace 7-8 players. So there's a lot of to do for Tare. And we have our old friend back, Alistair, Indice di Liquidità. Do you want to remind us of a little friend?
Oh, God. Well, first of all, let's just say after that introduction that, yes, as of last week, since the last time we spoke, I can confirm that I also totally agree. Stupid World Cup. Why would you want to go anyway? It's best possible thing to boycott this World Cup, and I'm glad Scotland has decided to join Italy and do the same thing. So yeah, anyway, on to Lazio. The liquidity index thing, it's not very interesting, but it is important. I feel like we were talking about this as quite a lot in January, but it's back. So you need to basically hit a certain score, let's say, to be able to register for the league, but also then to be able to go into the market and start signing players. So at the moment, it seems Lazio are short. They've got a deadline on, I think, the 22nd, is it?
Yes.
To meet the liquidity index targets, and to do so they essentially need to bring in I think 5 or 6 million, something like that, to then be able to essentially, like I say, sign up for the league and start signing players. So although we will get onto all the incomings and so on, but perhaps for that reason it's best to start about discussing a little bit about who might be going out, because that right now is the most important thing. And the one everyone's talking about to start with, Vittorio, is Denis Vavro and his potential exit to Copenhagen, and how that could unblock this market situation. So is that the right way of going about it, do you think?
Well, we had our friend Carsten on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, talking about Denis Vavro and how the fans love him, and I think they won the title. No, I don't think they won the title with the Denis Vavro. So fans adore him. He's been most often player of the match, etc. He wants to stay. Lazio is open to sell the player. Now the problem is sorry, it's early. I take my second coffee. It's now all is to find the right deal, because I think the deal in place was 8 million euros to get the player. Copenhagen wants a discount, like around 5-6 million euros. That money, Alistair, as you were mentioning, would solve the index of liquidity problem for Lazio. So that's why Lazio is trying to finalize this contract, this deal, which, as normal for Lazio, is taking ages. But
yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Is that Lazio never needed something like the liquidity index to be slow at doing business anyway. So this is just another problem that is making an existing problem even worse, because it's forcing them to wait to be able to sign anyone. That said, I think the positive side of this is that it almost like forces the club to get rid of these players, to find deals for these fringe players, guys who've been sent out on loan. So beyond Vavro, there's obviously Murici, there's Escalante, there's Keane, there's wagging your finger at me.
Yes,
But
because
it's
you
in a
mentioned,
position where you have to do this first, which I think is a good thing because it's always forgotten about.
Alistair, you mentioned loan players, and this is very important before we forget, because just to make things a little bit complicated, the rules of loan players is changing this summer. You know how many players Lazio have on loan till the 1st of July?
Must be like 8, I don't know.
20.
20?
Considering all the former Primavera players, Lazio have 20 players. And the new rule starting from this summer says that every team has maximum 8 players on loan. Next year is going to be 7. So this means that Lazio have to get rid of at least 12 of these 20 players on loan, right? So there's a lot of things to do. Of these 20, Lukaku contract is expiring the 30th of June, so he's done. Drechka, that it's a former Lazio Primavera who went to loan, I don't remember where in Lega Pro. His contract is expiring. And then there is a third player, again, I don't remember, again, coming out from the Primavera whose contract is expiring. So of these 20, 17 will be still Lazio player as on the 1st of July. But you have to place them. You have to sell them. You cannot send them alone. Obviously, there are Durmisi, Javan Anderson, and so on in this loans player. Armini. So it's not easy, Alison. This is another huge problem for Lazio, right?
Yeah, and it always has been. That's part of the reason. I was surprised it was that many, but part of that reason is that it's this accumulation over years and years of the club basically not being able to get rid of permanently players who are clearly not going to be in the first team. So, yeah, hopefully, I mean, I can't imagine they're going to pull off the entire clear out before starting to sign players. But if we can at least find homes for Vavro, for Murici, perhaps as well, although if Lazio are really asking, I don't know, 11, 12 million for him, it seems a bit ambitious. But we'll see.
He has been player of the month of La Liga. I mean, I think it's fair, right?
Well, okay, if you say so. Yeah, I'm not going to come on here and say what I really think his value is, just in case Mallorca's sporting director is listening. Yeah, I mean, 11 million would be a steal, Vittorio. It would be great business. So, yeah.
Let me remind me. How much did Lazio pay Murici?
Let's not dwell on the past. Let's focus on the future.
Anyway, as you were mentioning, Murici, Mallorca would love a discount again, like on Vavro. So it looks complicated to sell him for 11 million euros, but Lazio need to sell him for no less than 10. So this could be a problem. This morning, just to create more suspense, I don't remember if Corriere dello Sport or Messaggero said that Fenerbahce is interested in signing Murici again. So we're going to see what happens. But you mentioned Vavro. I mentioned Murici. There's even Escalante, who had a decent season, right? In the second part of the season, who could find home again in Spain. Johnny, the Sporting Gijón director, said we would love to have him back, but he has to find a way to leave Lazio, which the translation means we are not going to pay we are going to pay the salary, but Lazio has to give us for free the player. So it's a little bit complicated, right?
Yeah. But anyway, let's get on to the good stuff, the rebuilding job, because I mean, we've alluded to a lot this season, the lack of squad depth, the issues in the squad, the problems that have been created by several transfer markets of getting things wrong, and yesterday I put out a tweet on our account saying, with a bunch of questions for people about the Mercato, and a couple at least, doesn't matter. Philip Pizzano both coming back saying at least 6 signings are needed. And I think that's probably pretty much spot on, to be honest. I mean, I think how we probably want to do this, go through the team, because we can do that this year. We can go from goalkeeper through defense and midfield into attack, and we will have not just things we want, but things we need. So it's a big job.
Yeah, it's true that this could take even 2 days to talk about all the problems Lazio has, right? So maybe we have to speed it up. Before we start, Alistair, Maurizio Sarri renew his contract. I think that's important. That's a positive sign. So that's encouraging. Lotito mentioned it in December, but finally last Saturday was done. Official announcement. Everything is settled in dust. So that's good. Shall we start from the goalkeeper?
Sure.
Well, I think the first big announcement is I'm out. So I'm sorry to tell Tutare that I won't be able to sign, at least if he doesn't wait a couple of months or so. So no Campanile for Lazio this summer. Said this, it looks like in the next 48 hours, Lazio will talk again with Atalanta for Carnesecchi, who is the top priority. Alistair, goalkeeper of Atalanta, on loan to Cremonese this summer. This year, Cremonese got promoted in Serie A. He was one of the main players of this team. He's considered one of the best Italian goalkeepers. The valuation of Atalanta is quite high, 15 million euros, 16. I mean, I don't see Lazio able to reach those requests, but they're talking. I don't know. What's your take on Carnesecchi? Do you think?
Well, first of all, I think that Lazio could offer you like a 6-month contract, Zlatan style, so that you come in and you bring that winning mentality. You instill it in the younger players, that experience. I think there's a role for you, Vittorio, so don't give up yet. Zlatan's in the same situation. Carnesecchi, yes, I really like it. I think of all the names that have been linked with Lazio, it's probably the one I like the most of all of them, to be honest. So I'm very happy that he seems to be the front runner, that there's actually some pretty trustworthy reporters out there talking about this and how close it is to being done. I don't think that is a huge amount of money. I think it seems like a lot of money for Lazio, who are famously stingy with the transfer fees. But Lotito, Tare could well try and organize this the way they like to, as a loan with the obligation to buy, to at least postpone the lump sum. 15 million for the under-21 keeper from Italy is not bad at all. Obviously, he's not been tested at Serie A level yet, so that's yet to be seen how he'll stand up to that challenge. But I think when we're talking about the things we want from the transfer market, one of the things that comes through loud and clear from a lot of people is youth, isn't it? I mean, definitely. This team for too long has become older and older and older under Inzaghi, and Inzaghi is now trying to make Inter into the oldest team ever by bringing in Dzeko and now Acerbi or whatever. But I think that would be a great sign of things to come, because especially for a goalkeeper, if you can get him in age 21, and he turns out to fulfill the potential that you want, you've got him for a very long time. So I think that's not a big amount of money for what we're talking about. I think you can see it as an investment for the future. And it sounds like he wants Lazio as well. And that's so important. The deal has to be arranged, like you said. But if Carnesecchi is convinced that this is a good career move for him, then that's surely going to help this go ahead.
Yes, well, the thing is, Carnesecchi, as we mentioned, is Atalanta player. But Atalanta has just bought Musso, who they won't sell because he had an awful season. Golini is coming back, and they're not going to be able to sell him. There were a lot of rumors, but Golini is there. So if Carnesecchi comes to Atalanta, he will be probably the third goalkeeper. So obviously, if you're going to be the third goalkeeper of Atalanta or the starting goalkeeper at Lazio, I mean, everybody will choose Lazio. And I think Lazio is in the perfect solution, right? Reina is staying. He's the experienced goalkeeper who can help Kaneseki improve, learn from his mistakes, etc. And starting at that level could really improve Kaneseki, who, even Buffon said he's the best goalkeeper in Italy. He could really improve a lot, etc., etc. So that's going to be interesting. As you mentioned, the option could be option of a loan with option to buy or obligation to buy in 2 years' time, a little bit like Roma did with Abraham and Juventus did with Locatelli, if I'm not wrong. So that could be an interesting option to delay the payment, because yes, it's not that much, but for Lazio, it's not an easy deal, even because, as we mentioned before, Lazio has to buy 6-7 players, so they'll have to spend a lot of money. By the way, I don't know how to react, but Barcelona president say hi to us, so
Oh, hey, want to give us Gav?
Maybe there's a deal. You want to offer a deal?
Pedri for Murici.
Easy. Shall we move to defenders? I mean, their situation is even more complicated, Alistair, because Luis Felipe is gone, even though Betis Sevilla, it's funny, hasn't got the money to sign him. So they cannot announce him officially. So that's weird. Acerbi wants to leave. We know all why. We need 2-3 central defender. It looks like Rado's contract is going to renew. Patrick is staying, but we need a lot of players there, right? I don't know how many.
I mean, yeah, it was, starting in this, with the centre backs. I think, Acerbi wants out, and looks like the club are going to try and use him, to bring in some money while they still can, I guess, considering his age and so on. Again, kind of inevitable, bit of a shame, in my opinion, how things have gone for him this season. Obviously, he's not been at his best form, but it's not been helped by this ongoing fallout with the ultras and all the rest of it. But yeah, again, like rejuvenating this team, bringing the average age of this team down. I think it's important that the players Lazio look to sign are of a reasonable age. Alessio Romagnoli is the one that we've been hearing about for months and months now. Lazio fan, lots been made of that. Free transfer. But why is this still not happening? It's incredible, really, if it's actually coming down to this bickering over 500,000 of salary. I'm amazed that neither side is able to budge, or that no compromise is being reached between them, which makes me wonder, really, if this is as close as everyone's saying it is.
Well, the thing is, it looks like Lazio want to sell before Acerbi and then signing Romagnoli, which is quite complicated because, as you were mentioning, Acerbi has a huge salary. Let's not forget he renewed the contract last year or 2 years ago with Lazio. He has a huge salary. He's not getting any younger. And so not a lot of teams are willing to sign him. There were rumors Monza wanted him, Inter with Inzaghi, maybe Juventus. But the problem, Alistair, is if you wait to sell Acerbi before signing Romagnoli, I fear he won't be available when you do it, when Acerbi is going to be gone. So, and we desperately need 1 or 2 central defenders, at least, because we said it often in the past. Patrick is good, but he shouldn't be starting against Juventus, Inter, Milan, etc. If we only get Romagnoli, then Patrick is the other starter, right? So I'm concerned about that as well. We need to sign 2 central defenders.
Yeah, and I think it's important to underline. I mean, in my opinion, anyway, this is the most important thing Lazio have to do this summer, above everything else. There's a lot. Everything we're going to talk about is important.
Well, the goalkeeper as well, right?
Yeah, okay, a goalkeeper as well. But everything we're talking about is important. But I mean, like, more the defensive unit, sorting it out. It has to be the top priority, considering how bad it was last season. So at the moment, being left in a situation where your only centre backs are Radu, Patrick, and Kamenevic, Kmenovic, who's played for 45 minutes, Radu, who's about 60 years old, and Patrick, who's Patrick. It's not an ideal situation, and obviously that will be improved. We've still not even had a Patrick contract extension, though. Still waiting on news on that. So,
well,
I don't know.
They say it's done, but they didn't announce it. So that's pretty much.
Yeah, maybe it's one of these secret Lazio ones that we'll see in a financial statement in 3 months or something. But yeah, beyond Romagnoli, Casale is another one who's been talked about an awful lot. I think that this, we spoke about him in January a fair bit. It's the right kind of profile of player, I think. Young, Italian, got potential, got a bit of Serie A experience. I'm not totally convinced that he's ready to kind of like walk into the Lazio starting lineup and be a nailed on first choice player all the time. But we'll see. It's the right kind of player. Like, I wouldn't be upset if he came, but I would like him to come as one of two for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't rate him very high. I don't think this year he had a terrific season at all. So it also depends how much money Verona wants for the player, because I don't think he's worth 10 million euros. So Federico mentioned Skriniar got injured yesterday with the national team. So maybe this open a chance for Acerbi to Inter. Who knows? Alistair Chust was mentioned as well. Real Madrid player on loan to Cadiz, I think. I don't remember. It looks like 2 weeks ago it was done, and then silence. No one mentioning anymore. So I don't know what's happening there. But as you were saying, Lazio need at least 2 central defenders. Arbini will come back. I don't know if he's going to stay or go on loan. Don't know if he's ready to compete for a starting spot. But I mean, Radu could be a backup option. Patrick could be a backup option. We need 2 starters. It's clear that, right? It's evident. And on the sides, Hisai had a bad season. I wouldn't say awful, but bad season. And still there we have Maruzic, Lazzari, Hisai, and that's it.
Yeah.
So maybe we need someone even there. It's not top priority, as you mentioned, but I mean, it depends what we're going to do with Kmenovic. He's going to stay. He's going to be central defender. He's going to be left back. That is another question mark we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Schust again. I'm not going to claim I've been watching Cadiz every week, so I don't know much about him. But again, the right kind of, it's good to see Lazio at least being linked with or talking about signing young players. Can't stress that enough, how important that is. And then young players, I think you can expect to get reasonable deals for, because Casale as well. I guess the other thing to mention there is that Lazio do at least have a good relationship with Verona, between Seti and Lotito, and got the Zaccagni deal done last summer on pretty reasonable terms quite quickly. So that's one thing that's promising, I guess. Yeah, I mean, left back is definitely a position I would like to see someone come in. Just as much as anything else, all the players you mentioned, none of them are actual natural left backs. We've spent a whole season with Marisic or Husai playing out there, both right-footed players. Maybe it's an old school opinion, but I quite like my left backs to be left-footed so they can actually try and get some decent crosses in. I don't know. Yeah, Parisi again, another one we talked about in January. I really like him actually. I think he's a really promising player. Every time I've watched him, I've been really impressed. Technical, good on the ball. I think he'd be a good player for Sarri. You can see why Sarri has requested him, because he seems like a Sarri kind of player. And then I don't know. Beyond that, you always see the same kind of names, don't you? Like Emerson pops up time and again.
I was going there, because rumors are that Sarri asked for Emerson Palmieri, who has experience, has played in Italy, playing with the national team. He's a little bit too much injury-prone for me. And I don't see him coming to Lazio for cheap. I mean, Chelsea don't see him letting go easily, right? So Yeah, he's been linked to Lazio, but I mean that's quite complicated, right? I don't see it happening. But obviously, it would be terrific, passing from moving from Isai to Emerson Palmieri. I mean, that's huge, but quite complicated.
Yeah, complicated. I mean, I just find the idea of, I mean, we didn't mention Kepa during the goalkeeper. It's probably for the best, but this idea of Lazio signing Sarri's old Chelsea players, because we've already seen it. It happens every year, but like essentially a lot of the transfer stories being written at the moment are kind of people saying, okay, who has Sarri worked with in the past? And like Juventus players, Chelsea players, Napoli players. Okay, and if you believe what you read, we're going to end up with the 2018 Napoli team, basically, with Reina and Husai and Allen and Mertens and Callejon and at least sign Koulibaly. That's what I'm saying. Come on, if you're going to recreate that team, at least give us Koulibaly.
Shall we move to midfielders, because even there's a lot to do. Even though it looked like the first signing Lazio did is Marcos Antonio, Brazilian. Again, very young player from Shakhtar Donetsk, so big experience even in the Champions League. I'm not sure he's coming to replace Lucas Leiva, who left, but he could play there, and everybody's talking very high about him. So 9 million euros, 8 plus 1 of bonus, young, 21 years old, 20 years old, something like that. So it's a great signing. It looks really encouraging for Lazio.
Yeah, I've only seen him play once, which was when Shakhtar came here to play Roma. But even then, he stood out. I thought he was really good. I think technical player again, a Sarri kind of player. Young again, not crazily expensive by the sounds of things. Like you say, very highly rated. I mean, it's quite hard to find people saying bad things about him or having concerns about him kind of transitioning to Serie A. So, I mean, my main, this is probably just from years of experience with Lazio transfer windows, but my only doubt here is why hasn't it been announced? Can we not just finish this? I mean, obviously the answer being the liquidity index, but yeah, I would like that to be done as soon as possible, really, because it does seem like a great start if that deal is complete.
Well, the encouraging thing is the sport director of Shakhtar said it's done. He's in Brazil now, so that he don't know when he's going to be available to go to Rome. So it should be really done this time. Obviously, he has to pass the medical, so anything can happen, especially with Lazio. But yeah, that's a good signing and fits. I think he can play instead of Lucas Leiva, but I think he could play even instead of Luis Alberto. So I'm asking you, Alistair, do you think Lazio need or will sign another midfielder this summer?
I think they'll be happy with if and I quite like the way they're going about this. If Antonio comes in, I think they'll be happy to leave that and then wait and see what happens with Alberto and Sergei, because I think they'll then be able to focus on the other parts of the team where there's a lot of work to be done. And then if it comes down to it and a big offer comes in for Alberto, Sevilla decide to offer 50 million for Alberto, say, and he goes, or Milinkovic-Savic is asking price is met and he goes, then they come back in to look at another player. That's what I think is the likeliest. I'd be amazed if one of these other players, Ilic or Zielinski or Allen, all these other guys who have been linked with Lazio, I just don't see them as priorities if they're already as a player coming in who can take Leiva's position.
Well, there have been a lot of rumors of Zielinski in the last week or so, but his salary is 4.5 million euros. I mean, it's quite complicated for Lazio to sign a player like that. I would say the same thing about Allen, a very expensive player. Again, we are entering on that, I don't know, 31 years old player. I would avoid if I'm Lazio to sign those type of players. We need youngster. So they have been linked, as you were mentioning, a lot of former Sarri players. But it's not that we are rebuilding Napoli or Chelsea or Juventus. We try to build a new Lazio. So Ilic could be the player because Verona and Lazio has a good relationship. He's young. I don't think he's that expensive. His salary is still good. But yeah, probably Luis Alberto has to leave to sign Ilic, which we don't know if it's going to happen. Rumors were that Sevilla was ready to make a good offer for him. He wanted to go back to Sevilla, but if nothing happens, he will stay, just like Milinkovic Savic.
Yeah, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic, really, about Milinkovic Savic actually now, just because. Yeah, again, it's the same thing as it's been for the last couple of years, really, where you think, okay, I mean, Lotito isn't going to accept a cut price deal, and he doesn't need to because there's no contract immediately expiring. You know, there's no ticking clock really right now. And so, yeah, I think that he's going to wait for the money that he sees as suitable. And if he doesn't get it, he won't sell. And we know what Milinkovic Savic is like. He's unlikely to kick up a fuss and start demanding a move away, or to start courting other clubs or going to the press and talking about how much he admires Eric Ten Hag or whatever. So, so yeah, I just don't really see. I mean, things can change really quickly. Obviously, you know, if United don't get Frenkie de Jong and they decide that that's their next target, for example, and they go all in, then everything changes all of a sudden. But as it stands right now, it's not looking like an inevitability in the way that it's been painted, I'd say, in some quarters.
Answering to the question, I think we all love Luis Alberto, but he's probably not 100% fit for Sarri's ball, right? We need probably someone faster. So, I mean, if we sell him for a good price, obviously, I think that makes sense. Milinkovic Savic is the only one irreplaceable. So if you sell him, you have to change completely. But I think you can find better option for Sarri than Luis Alberto. That's my point of view, Alistair. I don't know if you agree on that.
Well, I think importantly, I think Sarri would probably agree on that. I'm still not totally convinced about their relationship and the way they see eye to eye or not. I mean, Sarri had those comments recently where he's kind of like, we understand each other a bit more now, but he's a bit of an odd guy, basically. And obviously there's this stuff about him immediately leaving before the end of the season, and and there's been all sorts of bizarre behavior going on with Alberto over the years. So I don't know. I do wonder if it's the best thing or not. To be honest, it would depend on who would come in to replace him. Alberto's been a great signing for Lazio and a great servant. So I wouldn't be paying for his taxi fare to the airport or anything, but I do think if an offer came in that was a decent price, you know, between say 40 million around there, if that could be reinvested in increasing the quality that we can bring in the rest of the squad, or a player like Ilic, who I do really like actually.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the worst thing that could happen, to be honest. As long as Sergei stays, this is the thing. I think it would be a disaster to lose both of them, but we're just not going to know.
Let's move forward, right? I think we have one very important task to do this summer. At least Iglitare has one very important task to do. Get finally the Vice Immobile right. Because we saw it in the past couple of years. I mean, Ciro Immobile is still the best striker in Italy, top scorer, etc. But I think this was the season where he missed more matches. And going forward, I think these numbers of matches is going to increase. And having Lazio competing in the Europe League, which is a competition that is getting every year more difficult, I think you need to find a replacement who is able to play and give a little bit of rest to Ciro. So we need to get this player right. And the most annoying part, Alistair, is we started with Ciccio Caputo, whom I didn't like that much because of the age. You know, he's 34. I don't think he's very good, but he could have been a solution. Then we move to Mertens, who I personally think is very complicated, but anything can happen. And now we're back to Giovanni Cabral, who played what, 2 matches in a 6 month at Lazio. I mean, something's wrong there. There's something they're hiding, right? It cannot be true.
This is the thing. I mean, we can never be sure whoever we're going to get is the right man, but we already know that Cabral isn't the right man. Because if he was, he would have done more than played one impressive game against Verona at the end of the season. It's been 6 months that he's been at the club, and his impact has been very, very small. I can understand that players need time to adapt, and it's not even his natural position as well on top of that. But I just feel like he would have had more opportunities, be it from the bench or being rotated in busy weeks or whatever. And instead, it was Felipe Anderson playing as a false nine whenever that happened. So I think the option's there because it's a way of filling that gap for a cheap price, and they know what the price is. I think 5 million or so to just make that deal permanent. So the temptation, I guess, is to just do it because it's the easy option. It's something they can immediately do, fill that position in the squad, and move on to do the rest of the work. But for me, I just don't think. I think we already know it's not going to be good enough, barring a huge surprise. I know unless he somehow completely changes for next season and adapts in this last 6 months. He's been training, and we don't know about what's been going on off the field or whatever. But the age thing you mentioned, I'm not that bothered about that this time because of the way the rest of the mercato is happening. So if the rest of the squad, the long-term reinforcements like Carnesecchi, Parisi, Casale, Romagnoli, that's bringing down the age of the squad for guys who are going to be here long-term. And considering how much work needs to be done this summer, I am honestly fine with the idea of bringing in a Mertens on a 1 or 2 year deal to kind of provide real quality in that position as an extra option. Because I still think he's a brilliant player, obviously an expensive one and complicating the rest of it. But for me, the age isn't as much of an issue for the Vice Immobile because I think it just needs to be quality prioritized there, and then the rest of the squad building focused on youth, and then we can come back to that in a year.
One thing I want to mention, Alistair, is that I feel that in this position there is all the issue with Lazio. We know that Tare is pushing for Cabral, while Sarri is not convinced, and he would like a real number 9. And I think this is the issue with Lazio, right? If this summer Tare would finally sign players because the manager asked him to, and not, I think this is good, I'm going to get it, and then the manager will cope with that. I think this is, in short, the issue Lazio had in the last 4 years, right? Tare was getting players that Inzaghi didn't need, Vavro, what's going on? Vavro, Murici, etc. Players that weren't adapt to Inzaghi type of football. He doesn't have to make the same mistake now with Sarri. So Sarri has to be more involved in the summer transfer market. And this situation reminds me of the problem of Lazio. Do you agree with me about this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're going to commit to him in the way that they have, you have to do that. You have to buy into it. You have to buy into his ideas. You have to respect his opinions. And obviously, it's taken a while for us to get to the picture of him with his ashtray and his cigarette and his TV remote signing his contract in classic Lazio fashion. But at the same time, the timing is kind of great as well because it's right at the start of the summer, at the end of the season, and it is just a way of sending that message of, okay, Sarri's our man. We've got another 3 years to come, so let's go. Like this is happening now, and it's one less thing to worry about because if there was on top of all this work that needs to be done, the uncertainty of how long Sarri's going to be in the job or whatever, then that becomes even more problematic. So I think him having signed the contract, you're right. It's exactly that. They need to work collaboratively. That needs to be how this relationship is working. It can't be Lotito and Tari up here and the coach down here. I think they need to be in the room together making these calls, because Sarri will know better about what's going to work.
Yeah, and we saw it in the past, right? If the manager doesn't love that player, he's not going to play, even if he's good. Let's remember Pedro Neto. I mean, he's one of the best youngsters in the Premier League. With Inzaghi, he couldn't find any space. So I don't know. I wonder if the reason why they're thinking about Cabral is because he can play even on the wingers. I don't know. Maybe he's, that type of players that can cover different positions. And this leads me to the final question, Alistair. Do you think we need to sign a winger or two? And what's the future for Luca Romero and Raul Moro? Are they going to leave and we're going to have to find a replacement, or they're going to stay, or one of is going to stay?
I think it's the same answer, isn't it? Where in an ideal world, yeah, I would want another winger to come in. We've got three who are kind of rotating, but you ideally want two for each side. I'd like to see Romero stay, because I think he's already had a few opportunities at a very young age this season and should continue. Raul Moro, I'm not convinced is necessarily going to get that opportunity. We'll see. But yeah, I think that what it probably comes down to is that we know what the priorities are. It's getting the centre backs in, the goalkeeper in, the left back, the Vice Mobile, and Marcos Antonio if he's in as well. So I think it really depends how fast Lazio move. We know that they aren't quick movers in the transfer market.
Definitely not.
So for me, it comes down to just, if somehow they manage to actually do that, to bring in 6 players and bulk up the squad in the way that's needed, and sell off the players who aren't needed, to bring in some cash and help the liquidity, and also help improve the budget and the rest of it. If somehow Lazio managed to get all that done, by mid-July or something, then we can start talking about wingers. I think for me, it's down the priority list, but it would be nice. So it kind of depends on how well they do in the rest of the mercato.
I would be amazed if for the first day of Alonso, Sarri has 6-7 new signing. It would be unbelievable. I mean, but
it's likelier that he'll have about 5 players, because everyone will have left. There'll be guys on holiday from international duty, and no signings.
Well, let's hope not. But I mean, to sum it up, this summer it looks different, Alistair, because in the past we will be 7th of June, no rumors of Lazio signing players. Well, at the moment we have Marcos Antonio done, a lot of players close to Lazio. So, it looks different. Milinkovic Savic in the last week hasn't been sold to anybody yet. So, that's encouraging. It's promising.
Yeah, I think it was just the David Silva thing has just burned me. It's like it's burned a hole in my soul where I can't trust anything anymore. So just if we can get through a summer without anything like that happening again, I'd be happy.
Keita Balde, I think it's unfortunate. I rated Keita very high, but this is the example, the proof that making wrong decisions in football can cost you a lot. I thought the talent of these players was evident, but he ruined his career, right?
Again, I don't necessarily think that's a terrible shout. He wouldn't be my number one choice, but he would be cheap, and he'd have a hell of a point to prove. Let's not forget the importance of motivation, and I think if he came back to Lazio, he really would have a point to prove to everyone. Yeah, I'm not convinced it's the right option, but I wouldn't rule it out if the price was right and we were desperate.
He failed even at Cagliari. I mean, when is going to motivation kick in? Or he coming back to Lazio? Don't know.
He's been kind of adrift, He's been kind of like floating around in the winds of football for a few years, where he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's like a Monaco, he's a Inter, he's a Cagliari, and he's he's never really found a home anywhere. Lazio was his home, so it would be like a homecoming for him, an atmosphere he's comfortable in, obviously a new coach and the rest of it. But I don't think he's suddenly become a terrible player in the last 2 or 3 years. It's just that he needs the right fit. I'm not campaigning for this. I'm just saying I don't think it's as terrible ideas as people might think it is.
Felipe Anderson 2.0, basically.
Yeah, just rebuilding the team from 2015. Get Libor Kozak and Miro Klose back, and
Libor. He's 33 years old. Poor Libor
is
Kozak.
he?
Yeah, I think last week was his birthday, and I went back and see all his goals he scored that season with Lazio. It was terrific. Top scorer of the Europe League.
Yeah.
What
amazing.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Kozak's coming back, just to mention. But, well, this was a resume of all the latest rumors of transfer market linked to Lazio. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please put a like on our YouTube channel, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to our podcast, and we'll be back as soon as possible, maybe celebrating a finally a signing of Lazio. Who knows? Thanks, Alistair.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.